one thing that unbelievers and believers have in common is that they both die. But you choose what death you want.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the More Purpose Podcast.
Where we talk everything from faith to finances.
I'm your host, Clarence.
And your co-host, Marlon.
And we are back with another episode.
Yes, sir.
We are on the road this year.
Man, this is episode 3.
Episode 3 of season 5.
Yeah.
And y'all already know the motto. Say it with us. The goal is to what? Become unrecognizable to the world.
Yeah.
And recognizable to God.
Yes, sir.
My Lord.
My God.
See, that's a word. See, if you missed it, you missed it.
Listen, we don't got to film nothing else after that. That's enough.
That was enough for you to shout. Sorry, y'all. We churchy. We grew up in church all our lives, but that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But today we have another special episode for y'all. The first one was becoming unrecognizable, the introduction of that.
Yeah.
The second one was on letting your life speak for you, not your words.
Yeah, that was a crazy one.
That was a crazy episode.
Hey, look, if you have not watched that episode, you need to go back right now. You need to go back and need to go tune into that one because that was a crazy episode.
That episode was crazy.
I don't know which one was my favorite between the first two. I don't know yet.
Both wham.
Both were crazy.
Both wham.
The first, of course, is like important. It's the backstory. It's the like, you're not going to forget that episode. Yeah. Because it's the introduction.
Yeah, where the revelation came from.
Yeah. But I feel like as we go on throughout the season, we're just going to have a whole bunch of like, every time we film, we'll be like, that was my favorite. That was my favorite. So, yeah.
Especially as we continue to go on through our lives and get new experiences and different revelations that God may give us. I feel like every episode is going to definitely be a favorite or a top episode, I guess.
Definitely.
In our eyes. But today, what are we talking about, boy?
On today, this is episode 3. We are going to be talking about the cost of following Jesus. Again, we're going to be talking about the cost of following Jesus. Subtopic, discipleship. We're going to be talking about discipleship. What does it mean to be a disciple? What is a disciple? And this is a very important topic in today's time because one of the last thing that Jesus said to his disciples was there in Matthew 28:19, where he said, "Go therefore and make disciples." Yep. And if that was one of the last things that he said, like here on earth, like that's something that we need to figure out. What did he mean by that? You know? So we're going to talk about this on today because there are a lot of believers. There are a lot of people that believe in God. There are a lot of people that believe in Jesus Christ, but there are not a lot of followers. And I don't know if people know that there's a difference.
There's definitely a difference.
And I believe that it's very important in today's context to talk about discipleship because we're in 2024. Like we said last episode, there are a lot of voices out there. There's a lot of messages that are preached around Christ, but not necessarily Christ-centered. Yeah. So there are a lot of messages out there that are talking to you about how when you give your life to Christ, it's going to be your best life. When you give your life to Christ, it's your way. When you give your life to Christ, all your dreams and all your wants and all your desires are going to be fulfilled. And we see through what we're going to talk about today with becoming a disciple, that's not the promise at all. So I think that I think this will be one of our most important episodes. So please stay awake. This is not a boring episode. I think this will be the most important episode because salvation costs you nothing. Being a disciple costs you everything. We're saved by grace through faith. God gave us salvation as a gift. We did nothing for it. It cost us nothing. It costed him everything. Yeah. It costed him his son and his son's life, right? But it cost us nothing. All we have to do is have faith in Jesus Christ, believe that he died and rose from the grave on the third day, and we are saved. Yeah. But now some people think that our Christian journey just stops right there. But no, we now have a price to pay. And now Jesus now welcomes us into this partnership, in this relationship with him, where he was crucified. He welcomes us in to take part in it too. So we're going to navigate this conversation on today on what it means and the cost of following Jesus. And we're going to be coming from Mark chapter 8, verse 34 through 38. Mark chapter 8, verses 34 through 38. If we were at Bible study, we would have said, when you got to say yo,
bro, you're a twin.
You was going to say that? If you got to say yo, and if you ain't got it, you better hurry up.
Let's get to it.
Again, Mark chapter 8, verses 34 through 38. You ready?
Yes, sir.
I'm reading from the CSB version. This is my Tony Evans study Bible. We have a lot of people that ask us questions about our Bibles. What Bible version do you have?
I have the Everyman's Bible,
yes, sir,
which is the NLT version, and a lot of people love this Bible. Yep. I love it more so for the specifics of what it leads to towards men in general, but then also the devotional aspects of explain the scriptures for me to help me break it down, make it more practical.
Yeah, so if you don't have a Bible, we just gave you 2 options right there. I love my Tony Evans Bible. It has commentary at the very bottom. I also have the separate commentary book as well, a whole bunch of revelation, and it helps you as you're on your journey with reading your word daily. But again, this is Mark chapter 8, verses 34 through 38. My title says, take up your cross. Verse 34 says, calling the crowd along with his disciples, he said to them, if anyone wants to follow after me, if anyone wants to be my disciple, let him deny himself. Let him take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life because of me and the gospel will save it. Verse 36, for what does it benefit someone to gain the whole world and yet lose his life? Verse 37, what can anyone give in exchange for his life? For whoever is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will also be ashamed of him when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. So our context for today will be from verse 34. Calling the crowd along with his disciples, he said to them, if anyone wants to be my disciple, he must deny himself, he must take up his cross, and he must follow me. So Jesus gives 3 qualifications for anyone who wants to be a disciple. First, he must deny himself. Second, he must take up his cross. And third, he must follow me. First, just starting off, I think that this verse is very interesting, being that he was talking to disciples.
Yeah.
He was talking to disciples, and it said calling the crowd along with his disciples. So there was a whole bunch of people here. It wasn't just his disciples. It wasn't just the 12, but there was a crowd of people. And we know in context that whenever Jesus spoke, it was a lot of people there.
Yeah.
A lot of people gathered to see Jesus. A lot of people gathered to hear his message. And he said something very interesting where he said, if anybody wants to be my disciple, they must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. So we're going to unpack this and unpack what the 3 things that he said, the 3 qualifications, what do they mean? And in context, what do they mean to us in becoming a disciple? Because like we said at the beginning, there's a difference between being a believer in Christ and being a follower of Christ. There's a verse in the Bible that says even the demons believe that Jesus is real. Even the demons believe in Jesus. You know what I mean?
Really think about that.
Yeah, actually sit and think about it.
Really think about that.
Sometimes the devil believes in Jesus more than we do.
Exactly. No cap.
You know what I'm saying? So they believe. So believing is not enough. But are you a follower? And we all know somebody, like on practical terms, we all know somebody where they're like, I believe in Jesus. And it's like, but you can tell they're not a follower of Jesus. You know what I mean?
You believe, but you don't. It's not your lifestyle yet.
Yeah. But I concur and say that your true belief shows in your following.
Hey.
You know what I mean?
That's facts. That's actually facts, though.
Yeah.
You show your belief by your actions towards that belief.
And this verse is very convicting because even reading this verse, I see that I don't believe as much as I think I believe.
Your faith not as big as you think it is.
No. This verse, this is very humbling.
Think about it. Because like what you just said, the fact that he's even talking to the disciples.
Yes.
People that we perceive as followers.
Already his followers.
Yeah. People that are around him all the time. Like, for them to be getting a speech. This shows how much deeper y'all can really go. So in context then, if he's talking to those which are perceived already as his followers, this means that you could be in church and not be a disciple. Hello. You could be at the prayer night and not be a disciple. You could be on the worship team and not be a disciple. You could be delivered and not be a disciple. You could be delivered and not be a disciple. You can come to Bible study every day, not be a disciple. You can make every church event and not be a disciple. Yeah. So we want context here because people think just because I go to church, just because I show up at Bible study, just because I lead worship, just because I lead Bible study, just because I share the gospel on my profile, all these different things, which are good. We're not saying that. Those things are good, but this does not categorize you as a disciple. Jesus gave 3 things. He said, if anyone wants to be my disciple, he must deny himself, he must pick up his cross, and he must follow me. Those are my true disciples. So let's break this down real quick. Number 1, the first thing he said is any man that wants to be my disciple must deny himself. What is denial? So I looked up the definition to deny. It means to intentionally disassociate oneself from a relationship with a person or to completely disown and separate yourself. So again, deny means to intentionally disassociate oneself from a relationship with a person or to completely disown and separate yourself. So Jesus in this verse is practically saying, anybody that wants to be my disciple must disown himself. How do you do that? That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you must disown yourself. I must disown. I must separate myself from my wants. I must separate myself from my selfish interests. I must separate myself from my desires. I must separate myself from what I think I should have in this life. I must separate myself from what I think my future should look like. I must separate myself from what I think my career should look like or what my way of life should look like. So already, before we even get to the other 2 points that are actually even more deep about picking up your cross and stuff like that, the first thing he says is you must disown
yourself. Marlon must disown himself from Marlon.
Which is crazy.
So my perception and the way of life, how I think life should go, when you give your life to Christ and when you want to become a disciple, Jesus is saying like, hey, all that you thought before, all that you believed before, all that is cool. You must disown yourself from all of that because that's not my way. What do you think about that so far?
You know, it's crazy because as the first one being deny yourself, thank you, Holy Spirit. What it reminded me of is back in basketball practice.
Yeah.
We had a thing, it was a drill where you had to deny your defender. You had to deny your defender.
Yeah.
But in it was called a closeout. So when a defender gets the ball, you're supposed to run up so fast and put your hand up, chopping your feet in their face to basically discourage them from shooting or driving the ball.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's like a tactic of saying, no, you're not finna have the chance to, you're not even going to have the opportunity to try to score the ball.
Yes.
So the way my mind's thinking about it right now is, in a way, denying yourself is basically denying your natural like cravings, your natural wants, your natural desires, and your sinful nature. Like, so denying your flesh in the way of, you might have that thought, but I'm denying you from even like going any further than that thought right there. Like, we're not finna go into no action.
That's good.
You have no room to make no move. You have no room to slide to the left, do no crossovers, none of that extra stuff. No, we denying you pass the ball. Like, get someone else. So in a way, denying yourself is more so understanding that your flesh is going to flesh. Your flesh is going to flesh. But you have a coach in Jesus that will actually give you the way to like fight off your flesh.
Yes.
And in a way, that's what my mind went to as far as like denying your flesh is basically like having the work ethic and the effort to be like, no, I'm going to get in his face. I'm going to let you know, like, no, we're not going nowhere.
I'm not letting my flesh score.
I'm not going to let my flesh score.
That's so good.
Now I'm competitive.
Yeah.
I'm competitive. So if you think you about to get this ball and score or make a move on me, you welling. You're bugging.
Yeah.
I'm clamping that down.
That's very good. And I think that, again, this is already, denying yourself already takes a whole lot of people already out the equation. Keep in mind, again, he's talking to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So imagine when people are first hearing this, when you hear deny yourself, some people are probably already walking away as he's saying this.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that sounds cool, but, you know, nah, that ain't it. And this is not just to talk about the people in the story, but this refers to us.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us do the same exact thing. He said, hey, you must deny yourself. And we're like, huh?
What do you mean by that?
I don't know if I can disassociate myself from that.
What do you mean by that?
We know in context that following Jesus, you give up your rights. When you give your life to Christ, when you submit to God, you give up your rights. So I'm telling myself no, and I'm saying yes to God. I'm saying yes to the Father, and yes to his will, and yes to his way. So again, denying yourself is to completely disown and separate yourself from oneself. So your life is no longer your own. To deny yourself is to say no to your fleshly desires and to say yes and submit to God and his will.
Honestly, go backtracking, I feel like denying yourself is actually one of the first steps to faith anyway.
Yes.
Because in a way, you have to basically show God that you're willing to trust him over what you already know about yourself.
Yeah.
Which that's just a crazy thing you think about.
Yeah.
You have to tell yourself no. Like, telling yourself no and everything that you already know, what you grew up like, the environment you was raised in, everything that you was taught as your life has been.
Yeah.
You have to basically say, all right, cool, I was taught this my whole life. God told me to live this way.
Yeah.
A completely different way than what I was raised as.
Yes.
I have to have faith that this is the right way I have to live.
That's so good. And even in practical terms, denying yourself, because when we think of denying ourselves, we particularly go to flesh. And when we hear flesh, we just think about lust and sex and different things like that.
Yeah.
But no, it's real more than that, because this means denying your plans. This means denying all of that. You know, so some people, when they come to Christ, it's like, you already have made up in your mind what my life should be like. I already know I'm going to school for this. I'm doing all of that. What happens when Jesus, he disrupts all of that? When you give your life to Christ and you thought your plans were going to succeed. And we have that testimony.
Facts.
We definitely have that testimony.
Facts.
Me and CL were on two completely different paths. I was in New Jersey. I'm running track during COVID. I don't even know how I ended up back here. You know what I mean? Like, before all of this, I don't know how this happened.
I'm over here trying to be a millionaire with my camera.
You feel me? So it's like, when you give your life to Christ, the first thing you must do is deny yourself. And that even means your plans. That even means your wants and the things that you think you should have in life. And that right there is very humbling in itself, to say, God, I trust you with my plans. I give you this. I give you my desire for what I think marriage should look like. I give you my desires to what I think my money should look like. I give you my desire to what I think my future should look like. You know what I mean? So number one, he says we must deny ourselves. I have a verse right now. It says, this is Galatians 5, verse 24. It says, now those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh along with its passions and its desires. Again, Galatians 5:24, it says, now those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh along with its passions and its desires. And then I have one more verse in Titus chapter 2, verses 11 through 13. It says, for the grace of God has appeared, that offers salvation to all people. It teaches us to say no to ungodliness and worldly passions and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in the present age while we wait for the blessed hope, the appearing of glory of our great God and Savior, Jesus Christ. So again, denying oneself is to completely disown yourself and separate yourself. But then another aspect of denying yourself is moving from selfishness to selflessness.
Yep.
Moving from selfishness to moving to selflessness. I think this is very important as well because we see Jesus's whole life was not about him, but was about giving himself up for somebody else.
Yep.
How much more for us?
Come on now.
You know what I mean? We made a joke about it at Bible study, how Chick-fil-A, they always, my pleasure.
Listen.
When we a lot of us want to live a my pleasure life.
Yeah.
We want to, everything is for us. Everything is for our benefit. Everything is for our desires. Everything is for our motives. And Jesus is like, no, when you give your life to me, you live for the next person. He said, the greatest among you must serve. The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve.
Yeah.
So how much more should we lay our life down for somebody else?
Your mindset has to go from my pleasure to your pleasure.
Your pleasure.
Yes. Like God, how can I serve you the Christ-like way that God has called me to serve you versus trying to serve your everyday needs, your everyday wants. And honestly, when you really think about it, you end up getting an overflow of different things that you actually, of what God desires for you after you serve someone else.
That's a life hack. Say that again.
You get what you was actually looking for, you end up getting through serving someone else.
Yes.
Versus trying to get it on your own.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because we both have actually witnessed and experienced that in our own lives as far as like just serving others and realizing like, yo, I didn't even know I needed that. I didn't know that this was going to come along with us serving this vision or serving this thing right here. And a lot of our ideas and dreams of what we thought we was going to be doing, we end up doing it in an unconventional way through serving God's vision.
Yes, that's so good. Because I think like just not even just being a Christian, just being a human in today's generation, when you literally just think everything is about us. We take everything personal. When we face trials and tribulations, we're like, well, my life is so bad. We're not worried about what anybody else has going on in their life. And this is not the way. This is not what Christ has called us to. He's called us to be mindful of others, to be compassionate. He said to love your neighbors as you love yourself, to love God, right? Everything Christ did was for us. So he denied himself, and he was willing to take the cross. He was willing to die there in sake of us having life, in sake of us having a new beginning, So how much more should we do this? So again, denying yourself is moving from being selfish to living a selfless life. And many of us, we have to take that to God too. A lot of us, we got to realize that we are selfish. I realize every day that I'm selfish in a lot of ways. I think that life revolves around me. Sometimes I feel like I'm the main character, and God's like, no, that's not the case. You literally, everybody just passes through this life, and we live this life for the sake of other people.
But imagine if, how you just said main character, right?
Yeah.
So think about all the superhero movies we watched, or we grew up watching Power Rangers and everything. How everybody wanted to be a Red Ranger. Everybody wanted to be the leader. Everybody wanted to be the one in the limelight. But imagine if we changed our mindsets into God is the point guard.
Yes.
God is the limelight. We're just trying to be role players to serve his vision. Good. Imagine if we change it to that versus trying to serve our own visions.
Yeah.
Imagine how much more points we put on the scoreboard against the devil if we actually rewired our focus into that. Yeah. Again, I'm competitive.
Man.
If you letting the devil win right now, switch, make some adjustments. Yeah. Substitutions. Whatever we got to do. Audible, something, please. Because in that, when you actually make God the forefront and make him the head man of your life, making him the head man of your plans, your visions, everything, you start focusing your eyes on him. You won't be focusing on everything else that's going on because you're so focused on, God, what's your plan? Yeah. What's your way of how you want us to walk on this thing? What's your pace? What's your foresight and your insight on these different things that we're about to get into? Yeah. Because now I'm getting God knowledge. I'm not getting knowledge from CL. I'm not getting knowledge from me. I'm not getting knowledge from Marlon. I'm getting God knowledge. I'm getting knowledge from his word. Yeah. And I'm getting the Holy Spirit's divine edge as far as the spiritual advantage over different decisions I have in my life because I'm putting God first. Yes. I'm denying myself. I'm telling myself, no, Clarence, you don't know it all. Yeah. And I'm saying, God, you know it all. Yeah. So I'm going to deny me. I'm going to listen to you and follow your footsteps. And I bet money every time that God is going to lead you on the way to the promised land. Same thing we be saying on Fortnite. Yeah. Take you to the promised land.
Take to the promised land, baby. But nah, I think that this is very important because I think when we look in the context of Christianity today, we can tell that discipleship has not really been broken down. neither do people even know what discipleship is.
Yeah.
Neither do they even have anybody discipling them. And we actually we would just watch the movie The Forge, a movie technically about discipleship.
Yeah.
And I think the problem that happens when people don't know what discipleship is, or when they're not discipled, is we raise selfish Christians and we raise Christians that are spoiled, rotten, entitled Christians. And when we look at Christians today, we see that it's an influx of selfish Christians. It's an influx of entitled Christians. It's an influx of different things that we see in the body of Christ on today. But it's like when you read this verse, it's like, God never promised any of that. He didn't yes, God promises blessings. Yes, God promises a lot of different things, but he didn't promise you an easy life
at all.
You can't show me a verse in the Bible that says he promised you an easy life. So if we're not focused on discipleship, if our teachings are not flowing through discipleship, we end up raising a generation of Christians that think that God has come, that Jesus died on the cross just to give them their desires, that Jesus died on the cross just to fulfill your dreams, that Jesus died on the cross just to fulfill what you want him to fulfill.
Yeah.
And we talk about all the time that Jesus he's not a genie.
At all.
He's not Santa. You know what I mean? He's not Santa at all. Like, he only has to respond to his word. So number one, again, is just denying yourself. I think that's a very important fact. So again, that means giving up your way, giving up your desires, and giving up your plans. This second one is very heavy. The second thing he said, if anyone wants to follow after me, if anyone wants to be my disciple, he must deny himself. Second, he must take up his cross. He must take up his cross. The first thing I think of when I read this is Jesus. Why is that? Is because the cross is what Christ was crucified on. The cross is what Jesus Christ, what he died on. And I don't know if people know this, but I was doing my research on crosses as we was preparing for this and as we did Bible study on this. And the cross, Jesus was not the first person that died on the cross. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
When we think of the cross, we think of like, oh, that's just how Jesus died. No, the cross was an instrument of death. And I'm going to read some things about crucifixion real quick. It says crucifixion was meant to inflict the maximum amount of shame and torture upon a victim. Crucifixion was so horrible that it was reserved only for the worst offenders. Crucifixion was for criminals. I don't know if people know that. Crucifixion was for criminals, the worst of offenders. The victim would first be beaten, then he was forced to carry the large wooden crossbeam to the site of his crucifixion. Bearing this load was not only extremely painful after the beating, but it added a measure of shame as the victim was carrying the instrument of his own torture and death. It was like digging one's own grave. So again, one must be willing to die in order to follow Jesus. So Jesus is literally saying, this is before he died. This is before he was crucified. He said, if anyone wants to follow me, he must pick up his own cross.
Yeah.
Again, the cross was a means and an instrument of death. So he's saying one must pick up his way.
Yeah.
He must pick up his cross and walk the path towards death. What do you think about that?
See, even think about it like this. Picking up the cross, right? What we say earlier about the cross. How much was the cross weigh?
About the cross weighed about 300 pounds. I want y'all to put this in perspective.
Let's put in perspective. Let's paint the picture.
Because when you read the verses, you just like, okay, pick up your cross. And sometimes we look at that verse and we think like, oh, this just means that we're just going to go through things in life and different things like that. No, the cross was an instrument for death. So go ahead.
So if the cross weighed approximately 300 pounds,
yeah,
give or take, depending on what they did back then, right? I imagine that it would be hard to try to carry that cross with one hand.
Yeah.
To try to carry that cross halfway.
Yeah.
To try and carry the cross while distracted. To try and carry the cross while trying to carry someone else's cross.
Yeah.
All these different ways that you can carry a cross, I imagine how much more difficult it will be to try and carry a cross while trying to focus on someone else's cross.
Yes.
Or try to be distracted by trying to carry on or to hold on to other different things.
Yeah.
And in a way, carrying your cross is you giving God two hands.
Man.
Carrying your cross is you letting go of everything that God's actually to let go of so that you can fully carry what God's calling you to carry. And I also realize that sometimes more motivation and more strength comes from when you just focus on the prize.
Yeah.
When you just focus on the end goal. And it was a video I seen on TikTok where you might have seen it. It was a football video. They had a dude bear crawling from basically, I know a football field is 100 yards, right? 100 yards. Dude had his teammate on his back. This is crazy analogy. The dude had a teammate on his back, and the coach said, "I want you to crawl as far as you can crawl." But he had him blindfolded.
Goodness.
He had him blindfolded.
Yeah.
The kid is saying, "Coach, I can't crawl that far. I'm tired. My arms are burning. I'm tired. Like I'm not gonna be able to make it."
Yeah.
Coach said, just crawl as far as you can. So kid starts bear crawling all the way down the field. He starts crawling down the field, gets to 20, got to the 30, got to the 40, got to the 50. He's ready to quit.
Yeah.
He's saying, Coach, my arms, my legs, everything's burning. I'm about to drop. I'm about to quit. The coach starts pouring into him, giving him positive affirmations, all those different things, and motivating him, saying like, we're not here to quit. Just keep crawling.
Yeah.
And in a way, after time goes by, after just focusing on just keep crawling, one step at a time, brick by brick, just keep crawling. He ended up making it all the way down the whole field when he didn't think he could.
Wow.
And in a way, with us, a lot of times we feel like our life or our cross is too heavy.
Yeah.
But it's because you start focusing on too many different things.
So
you start focusing on everything else besides carrying your cross.
Yes.
So in a way, your cross gets heavier because you feel like, yo, I'm trying to carry my cross, but I have all this going on.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to focus over here. Now you're trying to carry on, add that stuff on top of your cross,
Yes.
which makes you feel like you need to quit.
Yeah.
But in reality, all we have to do is just focus on where God is actually telling us to go. Focus on the path that He's telling us to go.
So good.
Focus on reaching the heavenly prize.
Yeah.
And when you focus on reaching the heavenly prize, you'll realize, I done made it all this way with the cross.
Yeah.
Like I done made it all the way. I done made it all this way in my walk with Christ.
Yeah.
I done grown this much, this fast.
Yeah.
And you open your eyes, you can be like, bro, I kept my eyes on Jesus so much to the point where everything felt like a blink. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't think I would make it out of this situation, but I made it out because I kept my eyes on Jesus.
So good.
And when it comes to picking up your cross, I have 3 points up here, and it says, picking up your cross can be broken down this way: self-denial, surrender, and servanthood.
So good.
Same thing we were talking about with the forge. And self-denial says this involves putting aside your own desires and plans to follow God's will. It means being willing to sacrifice personal comfort and ambitions for the sake of following Christ.
Yeah.
Surrender. This means fully submitting to God's will, even during difficult times. It involves trusting God's plan and being obedient to His commands, regardless of the personal cost. Servanthood. This involves adopting an attitude of service, following Christ's example of putting others before yourself. It means being willing to serve God and others, even if it involves personal sacrifice or hardship.
So good.
And I love that in The Forge. You haven't seen The Forge already? I'm sorry. Go see it. But I love how in The Forge, how bro basically when he first gave his life to Christ, he started consulting God with, all right, God, what do I need to do to actually pick up my cross?
Yeah.
And he said, what do I need to let go of to fully walk this lifestyle, this new life that I accepted now? And he lit the game. Because the game was something that he was basically idolizing the way that took up a lot of his time. He lit the game. He said, come on, God, not the game. He said, God, either you're real or you're not.
Yeah.
Either you're real or you're not. He said, God, you're real. Packed the game up, put it in the closet, got rid of it, and it started fully taking on and giving God His attention. And the way that's self-denial, that's full surrenderance.
Yes.
Because when you fully surrender, that means I'm willing to put anything out the way to get at your feet, God.
Yeah.
I'm willing to remove anything that's distracting me from being at your feet. I'm willing to remove anything that's distracting me from fully seeking your will.
Yeah.
And for us, when it comes to carrying our cross, I believe that a lot of us are saying it's hard to carry the cross because you're not ready to let go of what's keeping you from fully submitting.
Yeah.
What's keeping you from fully surrendering.
And that's crazy because looking at this verse, I was convicted as well because after studying how much the cross weighed and realizing it was 300 pounds, I'm like, this is supposed to feel heavy.
Yeah.
This is supposed to feel weighty. And I was convicted because I know within myself a lot of times where I'm like, God, this is a lot. And I don't want y'all to mistake it. Following Christ is not a burden. That's the difference. It's not a burden. At times it feels heavy. It's supposed to feel heavy. But I want you to know that even in this verse, when he's talking about picking up your cross, you're picking it up, but you don't know that you have somebody behind you holding it with you. And that's God via way of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And this is something that I love, that even with crucifixion, one thing that God does and one thing that I love about God is that anything that He calls us to do, He leads the example for first.
Yeah.
So He calls us to pick up our cross. He said this to the disciples. And it's crazy because a little bit before this verse, He actually told them how He would have to be crucified.
Yeah.
But, and this is the crazy part. And one of your favorite parts in the Bible is where when He told Peter, get behind me, Satan.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that's a little bit before this verse. Because Jesus told them, He told His disciples, He said, hey, in a little while, I'm going to be crucified. They're going to kill me. But He told them the good news as well. I'm going to come back. And Peter was basically like,
you welling, you're not going nowhere.
Yeah, you're welling. Like, no, you're not doing that. And Peter missed the whole
missed the whole revelation.
He missed the whole revelation, and he also missed that if Jesus didn't go this way, Peter, you wouldn't have another chance. You know what I mean? You wouldn't do nothing that you were supposed to do. So I think that I love that God, anything He calls us to do, He does first. He leads the example, and I think that it's important to know that before Christ can even sit at the right hand of God, He had to go through this way first. And we even see that even before Jesus went into His first public ministry, when he was tempted by the devil was offering him all those different things when he was tempted in the wilderness to keep him from going this way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So
which is crazy.
He's offering him all these things. He's like, hey, that's kind of crazy now. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
The devil offers you all these different things. He offers you the easy way out. Mm-hmm. He basically was offering Christ the easy way. He said, hey, I can give you everything that you already want. I can get you there a little faster to where you don't have to go through the crossway.
Jump off the cliff.
Jump off a cliff. I'm going to show you another way. I can give you the fame. I can give you the influence. I can give you the authority. Just don't go that way near the cross. And in today's context, the devil says the same thing to us on today. I can give you everything you want and give it to you in an easier way. You know, in a faster way. You know, following Christ, it just takes too much. It's too hard, you know. So I can give it to you this way. I give it to you easier way. You don't have to go through nothing. Yeah. You don't have to do this. Like, no, just come here, just sign this paper, and I can give you exactly what you want. I can give you exactly what you desire. And a lot of us, we go that way because that way there is no discomfort. But like we said here, the cross was humiliating first and foremost. And even going a little deeper in this means this has implications then that we must suffer as well. Exactly. This was humiliating. It said that they were beaten before they even had to walk their cross all the way up to the crucifixion spot.
That means you already worn out.
Already worn out. And I love that it's not just torture. It's death.
Yeah.
So like you said, you can't halfway carry it. There's no such thing as halfway dying.
You have to use all your strength.
Bro, there's no such thing as halfway dying.
No.
Like, it's not like no 1 foot in, 1 foot out. No. It's really saying, hey, when I picture the cross, I'm picturing, because you're walking yourself up to the point where you're going to die. So I picture the cross on your back, but it's like you said, it's like you're carrying your old self on your back.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, we're going to kill him. Technically, I'm going to walk Marlon. I'm going to walk myself all the way up to this mountain. And I'm picturing Abraham right now, where he was willing to sacrifice his son. I'm going to walk Marlon all the way up to this mountain.
That's good.
And we're willing to put him on the altar and kill him. That's crazy. But I can see why a lot of people don't want to go. You know what I mean?
Because like that's me. Like
that's me.
That's life. Again, like I told you, it takes faith to even go against what you already know.
Yeah.
What you know your whole life.
Yeah.
And for you to have to sacrifice your old self.
Yeah.
For you to deny your old ways. For you to deny the old environments that you used to be in. For you to deny everything that you grew up learning.
Yes.
Everything that you know, all the friends you've been around. And for you to be like, all right, God, I'm taking you on as my new lead.
I'm willing to die.
I'm willing to kill my flesh.
Yeah.
For you. That's crazy.
I just thought about a video that Capri sent me on TikTok. But I'm not gonna go into the detail what the video said. But basically, the dude was like, it was a preacher. Well, I'm not even gonna say that. I'm not even gonna say that. But he basically was like, how many of y'all willing to die for Christ? And everybody was like, yeah, like we're willing to die for God.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. He said, thank you. Thank you for volunteering.
Yeah, that was crazy. I'm not, if you know, it was viral on TikTok. Well, you know what video I'm talking about, what video I'm referring to. But
I think it's hilarious.
For the sake of not being insensitive, I'm not going to speak on what that video said. But actually think about it in context, how many of us are willing to say, like, we're willing to die for, because when we sign up, when we give our life to Christ, we're basically saying we're willing to die for God. But we always talk about in the aspect, this is very important because, so Christ, and it's twofold, because Christ meant when he said you must pick up your cross, he meant that spiritually, of course, you must die to yourself. You must die to your old ways. But he also meant at the point of some might actually have to endure physical death. And we talk about a lot of times, because we don't want to skip this part. We don't want you to think that he's just referring to spiritual death. There's people all around the world, and there will be many more to come. And we know it through the verses in the scriptures. Matter of fact, half of the disciples died.
Yeah.
A lot of the disciples were killed,
Christ.
Were beheaded.
For Christ.
Were crucified. Were sent to jail. But we skip that part. We talk about the blessings. We talk about what God can offer you. But we skip the part that a lot of the disciples were killed. John the Baptist, head cut off.
Insane.
So we're saying this is what we're signing up for. This is ultimately what we're signing up for. And I love that in order to get a crown, you have to go through a cross first.
Yeah.
I said in the first episode, there is no resurrection death.
Yeah.
There is no something has to be resurrected. That means something
has to die first.
Something had to die first for something to be resurrected.
Exactly.
And Christ shows us, because now he sits at the right hand of God. He's like, hey, I did my work. I endured through the cross.
Yeah.
I suffered what I had to suffer so I can be where I am right now. I went through what I had to go through so I can be where I am right now. How much more will you?
Bro, think about even back in the Old Testament with the 3 Hebrew boys.
Yeah, man.
Where Nebuchadnezzar said, yo, y'all gonna serve my God or what? And they look like, listen, big dog. Love to you.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna serve our God. And he said, throw him in the fire. But sometimes when you have that much faith, it's looking like, bro, we're gonna be fine. I'm not worried about nothing you talking about because I know the God I serve. The God I serve, whether I die or not, whatever's his will is gonna be his will.
Yeah.
And I love how in that it showed how an angel went in the fire with him and was like, listen, I got y'all because y'all have so much faith in us. We got y'all. We gonna make sure y'all good. But a lot of people have to see that sometimes for them to be like, hold on, your God is real.
Yeah.
They have to see how much faith you really have to be like, nah, their God is real. I have to know who they're serving.
Yeah.
Because as soon as that happened, Nebuchadnezzar what?
He bowed.
That boy bowed.
But look, that's the crazy part. I'm glad you went this route because they said, even if he does not deliver us.
Yeah, listen.
So for context,
even if we die.
Mind you, they turned the heat up.
Yeah.
I think it said 7 times more, something like that.
He said up that thing up.
He upped the heat.
Killed his own guards.
It killed his guard. When the guard threw them in, it killed him.
Yeah.
So they're not going into this suffering, or they're not going into this and thinking, hey, we're gonna go in this and we're gonna get something out of this.
Mm-hmm.
But they did know that even if we die, there's a crown awaiting us.
Because we're dying for him.
Yes. So a lot of times in context, because sometimes we think that everything we go through, we have to receive a blessing in this earthly realm.
No.
That's not a promise. They said, even if he doesn't deliver us, even if I got to go through this, even if I have to die, even if I have to be humiliated, even if I have to be embarrassed for the sake of Christ being glorified, so be it. So they go into fire willing to die. They could have said, hey, we love you, but I don't know about this. Like, that's like, he turns it up 7 times more.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't save us, if he does not come and help us, we're good. Because we do know that people that die in the name of God, he said there's a mansion waiting. There's room for you in heaven waiting. So they had their eyes set on eternal prize.
I want you to think about how intimidating 7 times more of the heat
Man.
is. Think about a candle, and you put your hand over a candle.
Yeah.
How hot it is if you just hold your hand over that.
Listen.
Think about a fireplace. If you just get close to a fireplace, put your hands right there, how
Man.
hot that is.
Yeah.
Imagine a grill. You're cooking food on the grill, and your hand hot over there. That thing is hot.
Yes.
Imagine touching the iron. That thing is hot.
It's
now,
hot.
think about him saying a furnace and turn up 7 times more than that.
And they was willing to,
still willing to go in there.
To go in there.
For Christ. Think about how crazy that sounds.
That's picking up your cross.
That's literally
denying yourself.
That's choosing God over everything.
Yes.
That's saying, God, I know you're my creator.
Yes.
And if I'm gonna live through it, I'm gonna live through it if it's in your will.
That's
if not,
so good.
I know I died for you.
Yes.
I died believing in you.
That is so good.
That's crazy.
Because how much more should we have that mentality? That even if he does not deliver me from this, if he does not save me from this, because I think a lot of times Christians, we feel, how I want to say this, Holy Spirit help me. We feel entitled to God delivering us.
Yeah.
We feel entitled to God saving us. But what if God wants to let you sit there? We don't talk about that. We talk about the story of Lazarus.
Come on now.
Mary and Martha came to him like, Savior, where was you at?
Yeah.
It said they came and told Jesus that Lazarus had died or that he was sick.
Yeah.
And it says Jesus loved him so much that he stayed where he was at for 4 more days or 2 more days, something like that. He loved him so much that he stayed where he was at. Lazarus ends up dying. And they said when Jesus got to the scene, he had been dead for so long that you could smell it.
Yeah.
It smelled like death. It smelled like decay.
No, he dead. Like,
he's dead.
Like, he's officially
he's dead. Like, he's really, like, he's gone.
But it just gives more glory to God when he does what he has to do.
Yes.
Which is insane.
It's crazy.
And it's even crazy because they looking like, yo, Lazarus one of your main mans. Like,
he's one of your.
This one of your main
mans. Said Jesus loved Lazarus.
Yeah.
He loved him.
Intimately. Like, I love you.
He went over his house, would eat with them. And he let him die. Let him suffer. Let him go through stuff. How much more do we have to go through things?
He delayed even going there.
Ooh.
Like, really think about that. Like, he passed away. Most people, if somebody passed away, we're in a rush. Like, I'm on the way to the hospital right now. Like, to make sure everything's good, check on everybody, whatever. He said, I'm okay.
Man.
Lord, your will be done.
And man, it's just crazy. It's definitely crazy. Once you see all these stories in the Bible of people that were willing to pick up their cross and actually follow Jesus. So not just, and I love that this episode comes after the last episode that we did, because again, like we said, talking is the easy part.
Living it out?
This is the hard part.
Living it out?
This is hard part. Bro, Paul says, he said, I die daily. So basically,
every day.
I crucify myself daily.
Mm-hmm.
I kill myself daily.
Yeah.
I die to my flesh daily. I die to my desires daily. Why does it have to be daily? Because if I don't, my flesh arises. Mm-hmm. If I don't, my will creeps back up.
Yeah.
If I don't, my desires creep back up. If I don't, my wants creep back up. Mm-hmm. So every day, he said, every day I'm taking this walk.
Yeah.
Every day I'm putting the cross on my back. I wake up in the morning. I'm like, hey, let me get my cross, and I'm walking up that mountain, saying, hey, we're walking to death.
You know what's crazy? I just started thinking. I thought of like a visual, I guess, something that I could basically do potentially for myself, but for someone else that's listening, it might work out for them as well. But for those that are competitive, for those that have that mindset of the devil is soft, trying to kill your flesh, not letting the devil get a one up on you, not trying to let the devil score, let your flesh score. You know how you ever think about a game where you're tallying up the points?
Yeah.
I was thinking about me basically drawing my wall. I seen a vision of myself drawing on the wall, and every day, if I kill my flesh, put a one on the left side for Christ.
That's good.
If my sin got over on me, put a one over there.
Yes.
And I feel like that would keep me motivated specifically.
Yeah.
As far as like, he got one today, he not gonna get another one tomorrow.
Man.
Like, nah, you willing? If I fail today, tomorrow we getting that bucket back.
Yeah.
We getting that point back on the scoreboard. You willing? And I feel like that's another way as far as like keep you accountable. Because when you start seeing every single day, sin's getting more and more points, they get more momentum. You're looking like, nah, hold on, you're getting a little too close to these points now. Yeah. Like you got too much, you got the ball in your hands a little too much now. God, I need you to come and take back control of my life because it's getting out of hand.
Yes.
And for me personally, I feel like that will actually help out with just understanding how important it is to actually die daily.
Yes.
Every single day should be you trying to get a point on the scoreboard as far as, all right, God, your will be done. Not my flesh.
Yeah.
Not my will. Your will be done.
Yes.
How can I better serve you? How can I better serve and reflect you and be an example for you? Because if I'm not an example for you, I'm an example for him.
Yeah. That's so good. And today it's crazy because I think I believe it was 1 Corinthians 10, or I don't know if it was 2 Corinthians 10. I think it was first. It was 1 Corinthians 10, and it talks about how all the sins that we face are common to humanity.
Yeah.
Meaning there's nothing that you go through that somebody else did not go through.
Nothing new is under the sun.
It's like, and then it says in the back end of that verse, it says, but God is faithful that when you are tempted, he always provides you a way of escape. Right? That's the second half of that verse. So it talks about it first. It's basically saying you don't have any excuse. And the reason I brought that verse up, and it's crazy that I read that today, I brought that verse up because some people, you may be watching this and you may be saying, well, it's hard. You may be saying, well, you haven't been through what I've been through. Half of us have not even been through what half of the disciples went through.
No, we're not touching them.
Not touching them.
We're not touching what they went through. I'm trying to tell you, not touching nowhere near what they went through, boy.
We have it easy.
If anything, you live in a fairy tale state compared to what they went through.
We're upset about, and I'm just thinking about myself. I'm not even talking about nobody. I'm talking about myself. I'm frustrated by just denying my flesh. I'm frustrated. I'm struggling, trying to tell myself no, trying to tell my desires no.
Yeah.
These people, like, they went through way more, and we're complaining about minor things.
Way more.
And it's very humbling. It's very convicting. And so you got to ask yourself, when we get to this part of picking up your cross, am I willing to die? Am I willing to die daily? And am I even willing to die physically if it came down to it? If it came down to it, am I willing to die? And it actually talks about that. We're not going to go into this, but it talks about this in the book of Revelations, and it talks about it all throughout the Bible where people are martyrs for Christ.
Bro, if you really think about it, if any of us was in that situation right now, gun to your head, and someone said, "Are you gonna die for God or what?" If you have a hesitation, you might have to rethink your relationship.
Do you know what's actually crazy? We're not gonna go too deep into detail on this, but just think about other religions. They are willing to die for what they believe in. And it's so sad. It's sad because we hear about the terrorists and stuff. They're willing to be suicide bombers
for what they believe in.
And
don't let that go over your head,
and bro. Let's be grown here. That's not
be grown. Really think about
it. Let's actually sit and think about this.
They're willing to
strap yourself up
and kill themselves
because they believe in an afterlife.
Yes.
Or a car. Actually, sit and think about that.
That's insane. The fact that they're willing to do that, leave your family behind, kids behind, whoever, for y'all belief.
Yeah.
And we have a hesitation as far as like, are we willing to die for Christ?
And we're not condoning that at all. If you hear what we're saying, yeah. No, we're saying, think about the extreme, like
that's how much belief that they have. How much faith they have in what they believe.
Man,
that's convicting, bro.
It's very convicting. So that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah,
that's insane.
If it go over your head, go over your head. But listen, taking up your cross means to simply be willing to pay any price for Christ's sake. Is the willingness to endure shame, the willingness to endure embarrassment, reproach, rejection, persecution, and even being a martyr if necessary. And we're not going to even get into all of the details, but of course, Christ was humiliated. He was humiliated. He was embarrassed. And we get mad when we go through different things. We get mad when people talk about us. It's very convicting. We get mad. Jesus sat up there on the cross and he said, Father, forgive them.
Yeah. For they do not know what they do.
They're spitting on this man. Mm-hmm. I'm upset about people gossiping about me. I'm ready to fight.
Okay.
Let's actually let's put it in perspective. I'm ready to fight when people gossiping about me.
Street a buck.
I'm ready to throw hands.
You talking about me?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm guilty. You get what I mean?
Up.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm willing to defend myself.
Yeah.
This is a man that's not guilty.
Not guilty at all.
They found him. They found no accusation on him.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Father, forgive them.
You know how much strength that takes?
Whoo. But it's because he had the crown at sight.
Exactly. He's not focused on it.
So many of us don't endure the cross because we're so busy looking at the cross.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
The cross is the beautiful part when you keep your eyes on the crown. Mm-hmm. I endure this because it's a crown waiting.
Yeah.
I endure this because there's a life after this, right?
I'm focused on the heavenly prize.
I'm focused on the heavenly prize. And I want to give y'all this verse real quick. It says, this is Romans 6, verses 3 through 5. Romans 6, verses 3 through 5. It says, or have you forgotten that when you were joined with Christ Jesus in baptism, we joined him in his death? This is the Bible, because y'all don't have to follow our words. This is
Read
Bible.
Your word.
Yes. Is this not the word?
Read your word.
Is this not the word? So if you feeling convicted, this ain't Marlon. This is Paul speaking under unctioning of the Holy Spirit. This is Romans 6, verses 3 through 5. Have you forgotten that when we were joined with Christ Jesus in baptism, we joined him in his death? Verse 4. For we died and we were buried with Christ by baptism. Mm-hmm. And just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glorious power of the Father, now we also may live new lives. Verse 5. Since we have been united with him in his death, we will also be raised to new life as he was. We know that our old sinful selves were crucified with Christ so that sin might lose its power in our lives. We are no longer slaves to sin. That's just a verse to attest to what we're talking about. Another verse, Galatians 2, verses 20 and 21. I got to give you these verses because what we say does not matter. Our punchlines do not matter. Our analogies and stuff are great. They do not matter, but only what matters is the verses and what Jesus said. Mm-hmm. Chapter 2 of Galatians, verses 20 to 21. This is Paul. He said, my old self was crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but now it is Christ who lives in me and through me. So I live in this earthly body by trusting in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself up for me. Mm-hmm. How much more should we, right? So again, I want to go back to this verse in Mark chapter 8, verses 34 through 38. It says, again, calling the crowd along with his disciples, he said to them, if anyone wants to follow after me, let him deny himself, let him take up his cross and let him follow me. Verse 35, for whoever wants to save his life will lose it. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life because of me and the gospel's sake will save it. Verse 36, for what does it benefit someone to gain the whole world, yet lose his life? I want to read Philippians chapter 3 real quick, verses 8 through 11. It says, yes, it's Paul. Yes, everything else is worthless when compared with the infinite value of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord. For his sake, I have discarded everything else, counting it all as garbage, so that I could gain Christ and become one with him. I no longer count on my own righteousness through obeying the law. Rather, I become righteous through faith in Christ. For God's way of making us right with himself depends on faith. I want to know Christ and experience the mighty power that raised him from the dead. I want to suffer with him, sharing in his death, so that one way or another, I will experience the resurrection from the dead. Paul said, I count everything as worthless. This verse says in Mark chapter 8, it says, for what does it benefit someone to gain the whole world, but lose your soul?
Yeah.
John chapter 12 is another verse. John chapter 12. I want to give you all these verses real quick before we get out of here. John chapter 12, verses 24 to 25. It says, the one who loves his life in this life eventually loses it through death. Mm-hmm. But the one who hates his life in this world and is concerned with pleasing God will keep it for eternal life. Mm-hmm. Again, John chapter 12, verses 24 to 25. The one who loves his life in this world eventually loses it eternally. But the one who hates his life in this world and is concerned with pleasing God will keep it for eternal life. I said something in Bible study that the Holy Spirit revealed to me. He said, one thing that unbelievers and believers have in common is that they both die. Mm-hmm. But you choose what death you want.
That's good.
One thing unbelievers and believers have in common is that they both die. Mm-hmm. But you choose which death you want. What do you mean by that? Unbelievers, they live life, the Chick-fil-A life, mm-hmm. they live for my pleasure. They live for the lust of the flesh. Mm-hmm. The lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. They live serving self. Mm-hmm. They live serving their flesh.
Yeah.
And they live and they gain the whole world and figure out that this world wasn't the real life.
Yep.
They find out that this world was temporary. They find out that this world was a vapor. They find out that this world passes away, and they find out that the real life is the life on the other side of this. And in that, they go through eternal death. Death is what? Separation. They go through eternal damnation, eternal separation from Christ. So they die in eternity. Whereas Jesus is so crazy because Jesus invites us. He says, hey, you die now so you can live later.
Yeah.
Think about how crazy that is. You choose your death. Which one do you prefer?
In a way, it's delayed gratification.
That's exactly what it is. You say no to yourself now.
Yeah, I'm telling myself no.
So that you can actually live the
real life.
Your real life.
Yeah, your real life.
The real life.
That's good.
Again, John 12, it says, the one who loves his life in this world eventually loses it through death. But the one who hates his life in this world and is concerned with pleasing God will keep it for eternal life. I got one more for you. 1 John chapter 2. It's a lot of verses, but I'm going to give it all to you because, again, this is the most important message that we will ever talk about. 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 through 17. It says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, and y'all heard this verse before, we talked about don't take the bait and all of these different things. But it says, for all that is in the world is the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. All of this is not from the Father, but is of the world. And the world passeth away. The world is temporary, and the lust thereof. But he that doeth the will of God abideth and liveth forever.
That's good.
They liveth forever. So I gave you a lot of verses because we're trying to speed our way through this. But what are some practical steps to deny yourself, to pick up your cross, and to follow Jesus? We gave y'all all the scriptures. Y'all can go back and read them on your own time. What are some practical ways to deny yourself daily, to pick up your cross daily, and to follow Jesus daily?
One, I think I just read them the whole time.
Oh, yeah. You bring back up.
Self-denial, surrender,
yes,
and servanthood.
Yes. What does that look like?
Self-denial, denying your fleshly desires.
Yeah.
Like what I said before about the closeout. Like, letting your flesh can have the thought.
Yeah.
But letting your flesh know, like, no, when I ain't finna put no action towards that thought.
Yeah.
Servanthood, making sure you're serving people that are actually living that lifestyle.
Yes.
To follow their example, to follow the example of what Christ actually has for you.
Yeah.
I understand that it's bigger than you. It's not my pleasure, it's your pleasure.
Yes.
Like, God, your will be done, not my own.
Yeah.
And then surrender, having a full surrenderance. And I actually want to read this verse real quick because while you was talking.
Yeah, go ahead.
God, like, he brought me right back to this verse. I flipped here randomly.
Go ahead.
And it's crazy how this verse just blessed me from the last episode about letting your life speak, not your words. So it talks about Jesus washing his disciples' feet. So John chapter 13, NLT version, verses 4 through 8. It says, verse 4. So he got up from the table, took off his robe, wrapped the towel around his waist, and poured water into a basin. Then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around him. When Jesus came to Simon Peter, Peter said to him, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? Verse 7. Jesus replied, no, you don't understand what I'm doing now, but someday you will. Verse 8, no, Peter protested, you will never ever wash my feet. Jesus replied, unless I wash you, you won't belong to me.
So good.
So then under that it says, verse 9, Simon Peter exclaimed, then wash my hands and head as well, Lord, not just my feet. Verse 10, this is what we want to emphasize right here. Jesus replied, a person who has bathed all over does not need to wash except for the feet to be entirely clean.
Wow.
And you disciples are clean, but not all of you. For Jesus knew who would betray him. That is what he meant when he said, not all of you are clean. After washing their feet, he put on his robe again, sat down and asked, do you understand what I was doing?
Yeah.
You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, because that's what I am. And since I, the Lord, your teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet.
Yeah.
I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. When I was reading that, while he was talking, right? God showed me why it's important to have a full surrenderance to him. Because you can be claiming that you follow God, but your footsteps are dirty.
So good.
You're claiming you follow Christ, but your footsteps, what I can see in your life, does not reflect what you're following.
Yeah.
You have to wash your feet. You have to get fully clean. God has to clean your steps. When he cleans your steps, now I can have a clear distinction of your steps are different from what you used to walk in.
Yeah.
You used to walk in mud. You used to walk in the world. You used to walk in dirt. Now your steps are clean.
So good.
Now your steps are pure as gold. You know what I'm saying? Now your steps reflect what you are following behind.
Yes.
But if I'm claiming I reflect Christ, if I'm claiming that Christ is my Lord and Savior, and that I'm a Christian, and that I live the way he has called me to live, I can tell by the way your footprint look.
Yeah.
I can tell by the way you walk. Same example of what we said about people say we walk just like our dad because we're in close proximity with him. We look like we walk the same because we grew up being in his presence all the time. So now we take on the way that he walks from being in close proximity.
So good.
But it blessed me because it made me realize how important it is for God to fully clean, for you to fully surrender. Because if you don't fully surrender, your footprints will only reflect what you actually surrender to.
So good. And like you said, I love what you said at the beginning of the episode. You can't halfway pick up your cross.
You can't halfway
like you
pick
said,
it up.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
So you can't be trying to pick up the cross and then trying to do something else. And actually, when you do that, it feels even heavier. Like you said, it feels way heavier when you're split in between two. And you just made me think about this verse that I had written down. And I'm glad you brought up all of that. Matthew 7, verses 13 through 14. It says, "Enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only few find it." I'm reading again. "Enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only few find it." Why do only few find the narrow gate? The narrow gate, we know that means heaven, the path to heaven. And it's actually a verse in the Bible that says the righteous ones barely make it into heaven. That's scary.
That's insane.
This basically saying, in practical terms, majority of people will enter through the broad gate. Only a few people ever find the narrow gate, the path that leads to life. A majority of the people enter through the path that leads to death. And I was trying to ask myself, why is that? It's because the broad gate, or the big gate, or the wide gate, you can bring everything with you. You can bring everything with you. The narrow gate, you can't bring anything. And that's why only few find it. Because like I said, that one Bible study, if I try to walk through the door with my hands out and all this luggage, I won't be able to walk through.
Yeah.
I'll be stuck from even entering in. Because walking through the narrow gate requires you to leave everything else behind.
Yeah.
It requires you to drop off stuff. We always talk about the plane analogy. When you're going through TSA, they check your bag. And there's certain things that you cannot take through that flight. Matter of fact, they tell you when your bag is too heavy.
Yeah.
It costs more.
You gonna pay that fee.
Man, it always costs you more when you got a lot in your bag. It costs you way more. So the narrow gate is the path that we all want to be on, and that's the hard path. And only a few people find it.
You know, a crazy way to break that down.
What?
You know how? Excuse my language for those. We're grown here.
What you about to say before?
The highway to.
Oh, the highway to hell.
Highway to hell. Exactly. So for those that know what the highway to hell is, think about a highway say it's like 8 different lanes on a highway. But I realized, again, as you was talking, that the narrow gate is really just more so you understanding that there's one way to follow.
Man.
One path to go on.
Yeah. That's so good.
It's one path to go on. Think about a single file line going down one path versus a highway where there's so many different exits, so many different ways to go.
You're spitting. You're spitting.
Your mind is so basically like overloaded with so many different directions, so many different beliefs, so many different people to follow, so many different.
So good.
It's only one true way, and you have to choose what line you're gonna get in.
I was gonna say something, but I want to let that I don't want y'all to miss it because what you just said is Bible though. Jesus said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life."
Yeah.
No man comes to the Father except by me, except through me. I'm the way. I am the way. It's only one way.
Think about an easy pass lane. You gotta, before you even get it, you go from a big highway into slowing down. You speeding. You have to slow down and get in a single file line to even get through that lane to go through the easy pass to get to the next destination. Think about God being that one lane. Say he's the one detour that leads to eternal life. You have to slow down Focus on that destination and be like, all right, bet. In order for me to get through here, I have to even know to go through this easy pass. I can run it. I can run the easy pass and go through the other lane. I can go through the fast lane.
Wait. I
can go through the fast lane and keep going and get that toll bill in the mail. My God.
Yeah, that's where my mind was going. That's where my mind was going. We having a moment. Because, like you said, you have to slow down. Mm-hmm. How many times
you can't fly through the easy pass?
How many times are we impatient? We don't even have an easy pass, but we don't want to stop and pay, so we go through the easy pass. And what happens is when you go to the fast route, you always have to pay later. So you may have gotten to where you need to get. Listen, no, this is you. Don't throw it at me. Let me throw it back. Nah, you may have got to where you need to get to faster. Mm-hmm. But like you said, it comes in the mail.
That's all gonna come.
You pay later.
That's all gonna come.
You pay later,
and that picture gonna come up behind. Why? You got Marlon. You gonna have a picture of your sin.
And you can't say
you caught in your mess.
And you can't say I didn't do it.
You're caught in your mess.
Cause Jesus gonna say, here. This was your life.
Look,
and you gonna be like, hold on.
Look. Think about it like this. You going through the easy pass lane as far as slowing down and going through the toll booth is you basically taking accountability of, Lord, I come to you knowing I'm dirty. Lord, I'm coming to you knowing that I need to be clean. You going through the easy pass lane, the fast lane, is you saying, I'm gonna go through this life of sin, but then you get hit on the back burner of God saying, well, this what you was doing. 4K.
It's basically it's what I said though.
I have your license plate.
You're choosing your death. You're choosing what price.
Yeah.
And actually,
this is your toll.
Actually, when you run it, you pay more money.
Hello.
Man, Holy Spirit, you started this. You pay more money on the back end. You always pay more money on the back end. You be like, hold on, that thing was $3 right here. Mm-hmm. Why does this thing say $8? Why does it say $50?
You wanna know why?
Why?
Because it's the cost of microwavable stuff. It's a cost. You want something fast? You want something that's convenient? Think about it like this. Christ is not convenient. Following Christ is not convenient. Following Christ is not convenient. You want something that's convenient? Okay, bet. You're going to pay this higher price. You're gonna pay this express fee. And after a while, you realize the more you go through that fast lane, the more you go through the toll booth, them tolls start stacking up. That fee get higher and higher. When in reality, you didn't have to pay half that price if you would just slow down. What you in a rush for?
And it's crazy because once you get it, you be like, when did I do all of this?
Bro, what? I promise y'all, that meal be coming in like, but when did I go on this pathway? When did I go through here? How fast? You won't even realize how fast you felt or something. Trying to rush. You trying to be in a hurry and you just hurried your way into sin.
The wages of sin are death.
Thank you, Holy Spirit. What's going on?
Which price do you want to pay? Which death do you want?
Mm-hmm.
All right, listen.
What?
Help me to die now, Lord. I don't want to die eternally. Like, you think about dying now is temporary. How do I know that? It's because when Jesus comes, and I'm not even gonna go there because that's gonna go even deeper. Because this body, we sin. We're regenerated through our Holy Spirit within, but we still have bodies of sin. We have flesh. When Jesus comes, he glorifies us because this is not the real us. So meaning we won't have to sin anymore. So our lives already on this earth are literally temporary. How do we know that? We have temporary body suits.
Watch this. We said the title is gonna be The Cost of Following Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Going back to the toll booth. I'd rather pay my cost up front than have to pay for it later on. I'd rather pay that cost up front. I'd rather give you my money. I'd rather give you my flesh. I'd rather give you all my idols, everything. I'd rather give it to you up front than for me to have to pay for taking it with me on the back end. That's insane to think about. That's insane.
But that's the difference though. It's only two choices. You can live for temporary. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, going back to that verse. Going to verse 35, it says, for whoever wants to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life because of me and the gospel will save it.
Hello.
For what does it benefit someone? Or King James says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world, yet forfeit or lose your soul.
Yeah.
So this verse is saying, because I want to break this down too, because it's saying you can gain the whole world.
Yeah. Have it all. Have at it.
You can have the money. You can have the relationship. You can have the cars. You can have the home. You can have the degree. You can have the fame. You can have the influence and lose your soul. Then after that, it says, what can one give in exchange for your soul? What does that mean? After you've lived your life for my pleasure, after I lived my life for selfish gain and gained everything around me, now when you come to find out that there is judgment at the end, you can't say with that $1 million that you made, God, I give you $1 million for me to make it in.
Oh no.
God, I give you this to make it. No, you can't.
No.
Your soul is priceless, and that's why this is a very important message, because I believe that God is sending out disciples in so many different fields, in entertainment and in fashion, sending disciples in the hair industry and the cosmetics, all the sports field, NFL, the NBA, rappers, musicians. He's sending disciples out on these fields, but you have to know when something is compromising your morals.
Yeah.
You can't buy your soul back. You can't. It's no price for your soul. Oh, brother, this is crazy.
Nah, this is actually insane.
This is crazy. This is crazy. I want to read this verse. I'm gonna read this last verse and I'm done. I'm gonna read this last verse. This is Luke chapter 14. Luke chapter 14 verses 25. It says the cost of following Jesus. We was gonna come from this verse, but we did the other one. This is the last thing I'm gonna read. It says, now great crowds were traveling with him. So he turned and said to them, if anyone wants to come to me, if anyone wants to be my disciple and does not hate his own father and hate his mother, hate his wife, hate his children, hate his brothers, and hate his sisters, yes, even hate his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not bear his own cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. For which of you wanting to build a tower doesn't first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it? Verse 29, otherwise, after he has laid the foundation and cannot finish it, the onlookers will begin to ridicule him, saying, this man started to build and wasn't able to finish. Verse 31, or what king goes to war against another king will not sit down and decide if he is able with 10,000 to oppose the one who comes against him with 20,000? If not, while the other is still far off, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace. In the same way, therefore, every one of you who does not renounce all his possessions cannot be my disciple. Now, salt is good, and if salt shall lose its taste, how will it be made salty? It isn't for the soil or for the manure pile. They throw it out. Let anyone who has ears to hear listen. That man said, if anyone wants to be my disciple, you must hate your dad, hate your mom. You might be hearing that. You may be like, that sounds harsh. But it's like, no, this is how extreme it gets.
You must love me more than all these things.
Yeah. And one of the analogies that I brought up is that people who sign up for the military sign up. And when I say military, I mean the ones that are on the front line, sign up knowing there's a possibility they can die. They sign up knowing there's a chance I could be killed in the field. It doesn't mean I don't love my family. But what does it mean is it's a greater mission.
It's a big honor to even be able to fight for my country.
It's a greater cause.
It's a great honor to serve my God.
And not even that. It's a greater cause to die for the sake of my country.
Yeah.
How much more?
How much? You know what's crazy? Backtracking to what we said of how it's people that's willing to die for their religion. It's people out here that's willing to die for their religion, for what they believe in. And we got Christians that's afraid to even post about God because they're worried about what other people gonna think about what they posting. They worry about somebody unfollowing them about their faith. Really think about that. We got people hesitating to post a scripture because they don't want nobody to unfollow them. That's insane to me. We got people that's willing to die. If that's you, that heart check.
But you know what's crazy?
Perspective.
You're in the book, bro. You in the book.
Sorry, no, I know we're supposed to be at your game right now, but listen, God's flowing.
Let me tell you why you're in the book, though. The very last verse, 38 of Mark chapter 8, it says, "For whoever is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will also be ashamed of him when he comes to glory of his Father with the holy angels."
That's insane.
You're in the Bible. That's the last verse of what we just read. So he gave all the criteria. He gave all the criteria of what it means to be a disciple. Then at the end, he says, "Hey, I'm just letting you know, if you're ashamed of me in this life, at the end, I'm going to be ashamed of you." So ultimately, when we're scared to do those things that you just said, we put ourselves in that same scene of where Peter was when the lady walked up to him and said, "Hey, I seen you with Jesus.
Aren't you a follower of his?"
I seen you with Jesus.
What'd he say?
Peter said,
"Not me."
Why? But bro, why did he do that? Jesus was on the way to be crucified. Matter of fact, Jesus had just died.
He just died.
Oh, he was on the way to crucifixion.
Yeah.
Peter did not want to go through that same thing as him.
But listen,
that wasn't me. Denied him 3 times. Jesus even told him, "You're going to deny me 3 times."
He said, "No, I'm not." He said,
"No, I'm
me.
not." That perspective. Peter was with Jesus every day.
Right-hand man.
Right-hand man. Peter did all this talking. Let's remember, he did all the talking. And Jesus said, "Hey, Peter, like, I understand you think you love me, but I'm telling you,
it's gonna come to the test for sure.
That rooster is going to crow, and you're going to deny me 3 times." And Peter is the same one that whipped out his knife and cut the man's ear off. And everybody wants to say, "I'm Peter, I'm Peter, I'm Peter." You know what I mean? He denied him 3 times.
Which is insane. Again, you deny someone that you lived a portion of your life with.
And that's what we do.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day. Someone needs prayer and you get all up in your shell all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Think about you around your friend group and God's asking you to spread the gospel to your friend group, but you don't want to change the conversation. You don't want to kill the vibe of the room. Kill the vibe, quote unquote.
And this is going to be very convicting, because there's some people out there, your excuse is, "Oh, I'm too shy. I don't speak in front of people. I know I'm in somebody's closet. I know I am. I know I am. I'm not a people person, or I'm not a good communicator.
I don't want to lose my job.
I'm not a good talker. So if I communicate the gospel, it won't come off right.
I don't want to offend nobody. I don't want to lose my job."
You're putting your comfort. You're literally putting your comfort before everything else.
As an excuse.
Oh, I'm too shy. I'll wait till I feel comfortable to do it.
And now you're idolizing that comfort. You're idolizing that insecurity. You're idolizing all these different things to use as an excuse or a scapegoat for you not to represent what you believe in, what you quote unquote believe in. Because if you really believed in 116, I'm unashamed.
Man, we are unashamed. Yeah, this gospel.
Like, what are you afraid of?
Yeah.
If you really understand, if you really believe, you shouldn't be ashamed at all to spread God's word. If anything, you should be excited to spread it, because you're potentially trying to save another soul.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna give this last verse, and I'm going to the outro. We're getting out of here.
My God.
We're getting out of here. I just want to read this. I got 2 verses. It's just 2 verses. I'm not going to even read this full verse. But this is for anybody that's suffering or just going through anything. This is 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 12 through 19. It says, "Dear friends, don't be surprised at the fiery trials you are going through.
Hello.
As if something strange were happening to you." Again, don't be surprised. This is 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 12 through 19. "Dear friends, don't be surprised at the fiery trials that you are going through, as if something strange were happening to you. Instead, be very glad, for these trials make you partners with Christ in suffering, so that you will have the wonderful joy of seeing glory when Christ is revealed to all the world. If you are insulted because you bear the name of Christ, you will be blessed, for the glorious Spirit of God rests upon you. If you suffer, however, it must not be for murdering. If you suffer, it must not be for stealing. If you suffer, it must not be for making trouble or for prying into other people's affairs. But it is no shame to suffer for being a Christian. Praise God for the privilege of being called by his name. For the time has come for judgment, and it must begin with God's household first. And if judgment begins with us first, what terrible fate awaits those who have never obeyed God's good news? And also, if the righteous are barely saved, what will happen to godless sinners? So if you are suffering in a manner that pleases God, keep on doing what is right and trust your lives to the God who created you, for he will never fail you. That's 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 12 through 19. I'm not even going to explain that verse. That's self-explanatory. Whoever needs that, take that right there. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 12 through 19. And I just want to wrap up and do this little outro for the last verse. This is Matthew 28, 19. This is the Great Commission. Mm-hmm. He says, therefore, this is Jesus talking to the disciples. This is one of the last things he said to them. He said, therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. This whole thing of discipleship is very important, because if you are not yourself a disciple, you can't disciple other people.
Exactly.
The last thing that Jesus said to them, go and make disciples. Mm-hmm. Meaning that implies that you have to be a disciple first to make somebody else a disciple. Because if we're not, we end up raising a generation of Christians that are lukewarm. Mm-hmm. We raise a generation of Christians, like we said at the beginning, that serve self-interest. We raise a generation of Christians that view God the wrong way. Mm-hmm. But he's saying, hey, I've taught you these three things. We just learned through today's episode that if anybody wants to be a disciple, you must what? Deny yourself. You must pick up your cross, and you must follow Jesus. Those are the three things that you need in order to be a disciple. He said, hey, once you've done those three things, once you do those three things daily, hey, like the movie Forge, now you find somebody else and you teach them to do those three things. Mm-hmm. Deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow Jesus. Mm-hmm. If everybody focus on one, taking those three things in their life daily, and then number two, teaching somebody else to do the same, we can impact nations
very fast.
This is why Jesus says, you will do greater works than me. Mm-hmm. This does not mean you're going to be greater than Jesus, but he's saying, hey, your influence will be greater because we have the Holy Spirit. Jesus was one man in flesh. Jesus could not go everywhere and be everyone at the same time. Mm-hmm. But now via the Holy Spirit, via social media, via podcasts, via your Instagram posts, via your YouTube, via you being at your job, you telling people about Christ and making disciples, we can impact so many people.
Crazy.
If we just focus on making one disciple, because you started off with making yourself a disciple first. So if you ask me, what is the cost of following Jesus? I would tell you it costs everything.
Everything.
That's how we're going to end today. That's how we're going to end today. This is my favorite episode.
Thank you, Holy Spirit. First of all, thank you, Holy Spirit.
Man.
2, thank you, Holy Spirit, for giving me and Marlon even more clarity on how big this assignment is.
Man.
How important it is for us to really and truly become unrecognizable.
Yeah.
And for giving us a revelation of becoming unrecognizable for this season, because I believe this is very timely.
It is, bro.
Especially with the timing that the Forge came out, the timing of everything that we've been witnessing, what's been being preached at church, what we're seeing on social media. Yeah. As times go on, it's crazy how timely this really is, and how important it is, and for us to emphasize being a true disciple. Yeah. Going back to Luke 23 about letting Jesus wash your feet. Mm-hmm. So that you can now go and lead others by example.
Yes. It's not enough to be a believer.
You have to be a real follower.
A follower.
You have to be a follower, a real disciple.
Man. This episode can go all day because I still got a whole bunch of stuff in my head. This can go all day, but we might got to do a part 2 about this later. We're going to do a part 2 maybe later in the season about discipleship and the Great Commission. But I believe that this is one of the most important messages that we will ever talk about. Because again, this is Jesus's message, go and make disciples. Paul talks about how once God has reconciled us, we now have a ministry of reconciliation. We now have a ministry of telling other people the good news. Mm-hmm. We now have a ministry of mercy, a ministry of grace. Because Christ extended it to us, we now tell other people about this. And there is so many people that are waiting for you to step up as a disciple so that you can disciple them. And all a disciple is a student, is a follower. Mm-hmm. And I don't want you to get too hyped and like, oh, well, I'm going to have disciples. No, don't look at it like that. You're just training people in the way. Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ. Mm-hmm. So as you follow Christ, as you become a disciple, there will be people that God graces you to disciple in the process.
I love that scripture so much because he said, "Follow me as I follow Christ."
Not just follow me.
Not just follow me.
Like not
As I follow Christ, follow me.
That's somebody you can follow. You can follow somebody that's following Christ. I can't follow you if you just out here.
Yeah, you just out here wilding? No, I can't follow you.
I can follow you if you're following Christ.
Yes.
If you're following Christ, I can follow you.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. We ended it right here. Go ahead.
Thank y'all for tuning in.
Yeah.
If y'all haven't already, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. This is a powerful episode. I'm stuck.
Send this to 2 people. Please. Send this to 2 people. This message is not about us. This message is about discipleship. This message is about Christ. Send this to somebody who you know needs this message, who you know that they're a believer, but they haven't really stepped into being a disciple for Christ. Leave a comment. Comment your favorite part of this episode. And again, send to a friend. We appreciate all the love. We appreciate all the support. This is our 3rd episode, and we hope that you are enjoying the season so far. With the pace that this is going right now, these next few episodes are... Like the rest of the season is going to be crazy because it just keeps getting better and better and better and better and better. Like
and Holy Spirit just coming out of nowhere.
Yes, like you know what I mean. Like and you know it's real when it's catching us off guard. It isn't like we knew it was going to go.
This was not planned.
No, I'm tired. I just got off work. He just had shoots today.
Yeah,
and we like listen, Holy Spirit,
have your way,
because we didn't have long days. And listen, Today I'm going home because I'm going to watch the Ravens. We're supposed to go to our nephew Noah's game, and you know,
I'm sorry,
Neff, I'm sorry, but this is for a good call. He has a whole rest of the season.
Yeah,
he has a whole 15 games left. We love you, Noah. He's gonna be watching this because he told us he's been watching the podcast and telling his friends. That's discipleship. He's been watching our podcast. Our nephew has been watching our podcast and telling other people about the podcast. He's in 10th grade or 9th grade.
9th grade.
He's in 9th grade. And that's discipleship.
That's
discipleship. Training somebody else up, teaching somebody else the way, sharing it with somebody else. That's discipleship. So once you've seen this episode, you will be held accountable because there's somebody in your household, there's somebody in your classroom, there's somebody on your team, there's somebody at your job that needs discipleship.
Thanks.
And just like the movie Forge, we keep going back to that movie because it was the perfect depiction of discipleship.
A great example.
The boy, he was going down one path. And once that man discipled him, it led him into a path that he never knew.
Of new life, new light.
Discipleship leads you into the right path. Some people, all they need is just one person.
One. To see past how you're acting right now.
To see past the sin, to see past the baggage, to see past the dirt. Jesus was willing to, the disciples that he chose, they didn't have their life figured out. They were businessmen. They weren't all cleaned up though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They had businesses. They were tax collectors. They were fishermen. All of these different things. And Jesus like, hey, come on.
But the difference between all of them and some people is they were willing to drop what they was doing.
They dropped it right there.
Right then
and there.
They was willing to drop everything they was doing to follow him.
And you know what's crazy? What's even crazier is they dropped their careers or they dropped what they thought they probably would be doing the rest of their life. Half of them went on to preach the gospel. And you're telling me, a lot of y'all say, well, I'm not called to preach. No, everybody's called to preach.
Oh, yeah. Everybody.
When you think of preacher, you may be thinking of the context of a pulpit. Everybody is called to preach this gospel. So that's it. We out of here because...
And if you think about it, everything that they specialized in, they didn't stop doing what they was called to do.
Ooh-wee. Peter was a fisher of men.
Peter was still a fisherman, but he turned into a fisher of men. Matthew started serving financially, like helping with with the numbers, with the planning, all that stuff. Like each one of them, what they was doing, they ended up using those skills towards serving Christ's goal, his purpose.
But it took them discipleship. It took one man
to show how to do
Jesus.
Yes.
He's like, hey, you got skill. I see potential in you, but you haven't you haven't tapped in. I'm going to show you the way.
This might be a bad not really like a bad, but it's a good analogy. If you watched X-Men before, X-Men, what was the dude named Apocalypse? How he came, right? He came, and each person that had powers, he laid a hand on them, and all their powers got increased by 10.
No, yeah, I feel what you're saying.
But it's like Jesus, in a way, say, all right, that's your career. All right, bet. Let me go ahead and increase that by 10 and show you the real way to use your gift.
Yeah.
Let me show you the real way to use your talents. In a lot of ways, so many people are out here. So many people, everybody has a gift in some type of way. Everybody has a talent in some type of way.
Yeah.
But people that don't know Christ are potentially using it in the wrong way.
Yes.
Are potentially using it but not the full potential of how you should be using it or how you could be using it.
And now,
until
since
you
we
meet Jesus.
That's good, because now since we talked about this today, now you have context when you ask yourself, well, why are people that don't believe in Jesus, why do they have money? Why are people that don't believe in Jesus, why do they have influence? Mm-hmm. We literally see the devil offers these things.
Yeah.
And then the verse that we read, it literally says, you can gain the whole world.
You can gain the whole world. Like, you have free will.
You have free will. The devil literally, he offered Jesus all of it. Mm-hmm. You can gain the whole world and forfeit your soul. So now you have context when you see these different people, just because they're successful, just because they have influence, gifts and callings are without repentance.
Yeah.
You can use your gifts to serve your own agenda, to serve your own selfish interest, but that doesn't mean anything, you know? So, yeah, I'm going to stop talking.
Thank you for tuning in, bro. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going.
This is crazy.
Y'all know the motto of this season is to become unrecognizable to the world and recognizable to God.
Yeah.
And with that being said, it's always more purpose.
You just have to find yours.
We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Like, comment, subscribe right now. You know what I'm saying? And go watch the other 2 episodes if you ain't watched those already.
Facts.
Right now.
Go binge. Go binge.
Go
these
watch
last
all 3
episodes.
back to back again. Write all the scriptures down. Everything to really drive this point.
Yeah.
Go in your room, put a poster up and say become unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Put it in your bio, whatever you want to do. Let's make it a movement. Like, let's keep it going. And really take it serious. Really take this walk serious. And figure out and ask God, how can you become a disciple? And whatever God has called you to, who are you called to disciple?
Yeah.
We'll go from there. We'll leave it at that.
We
out
here. We out here. We
Y'all be safe. Love.